Suicide. It's the second leading cause of death in Canadian youth, and the focus of a two-part series examining why we're hearing more and more calls for help and what needs to be done. Celine Moreau joins us live with this story tonight. Celine.
Well, Tara, it doesn't matter, big city or small town. More and more youth across our province are reaching out for help, but in some cases, that help is sadly too late.
But I miss that light that he brings when he comes into the room. He's just, yeah.
It's a parent's worst nightmare that Christy and Chris Heemstra are living. 6 weeks ago, their 17-year-old son, Jordan, took his life.
I wish I had more time, and I wish I could go back, but at the end of the day, ultimately, I don't know if I could have changed it.
Back in August, Jordan opened up to a family friend that he was depressed and experiencing suicidal thoughts. His parents sprung into action, and he was quickly put on medication by their family doctor and was also seeking therapy.
And eventually Jordan would just say, "Mom, I am fine. I'm fine." That's when I hear that "I am fine" now, it's like, you know, because he wasn't fine.
Less than a month after Jordan was receiving the help, Chris and Christy received a call one evening that their son may be in trouble. They immediately searched a factory that the family owned frantically in the dark.
Like, I saw where he parked the family car, and then I drove in with my son's car, and he wasn't in the area there as far as I could tell. And so then I grabbed a bike and I had my light on my cell phone, and I just started biking and calling his name.
Jordan was found by his mother and rushed to hospital, but it was too late.
He did leave me a letter, but he did say in there, you know, "Mom, I didn't let you know," and the doctor and the counselor, he said, I didn't tell you the full truth. I had no hope.
That lack of hope is something that the Canadian Mental Health Association hears often from youth struggling with mental illness and in some cases even suicidal thoughts.
It is challenging to see a rise in the amount of need for care, particularly amongst youth in the community.
The CMHA says suicide is the second leading cause of death in Canadian youth, and the agency has noticed an increase in the number of individuals 25 and younger that have been accessing services such as the Reach Out helpline.
We're seeing about 30% of the phone calls being attributed to youth. Those youth are calling, and many of them are suffering with suicidal ideation or really struggling with very severe or moderate mental health issues.
But for every youth reaching out for help, there's also another suffering in silence, which is what Jordan was doing. Now, his parents want to break that silence and encourage others to do so.
It's painful, but at the same time, now is our chance to try to reduce the stigma around mental health.
We're going to talk about this. If this can help parents, like you know, when their child says to them, "I'm depressed," don't take it as, "Oh, my teen is being, you know, overreacting from teenagers." Take them seriously. Not that I didn't take it seriously, but I wished I took it more seriously.
Now, for information on the CMHA and all the crisis services offered there, you can find that on our website. Tomorrow, in part 2, we'll be looking at new research that's been released out of London, examining what could be causing the rise in suicide attempts in youth. And we speak to a young woman who's been struggling with mental health issues for years. Tara?
Thanks for bringing this to us, Celine. A new study out of LHSC has confirmed a rise in the number of young people showing up in emergency rooms right across our province due to suicide attempts. In part 2 of her youth suicide series, Celine Moreau shares the details of this important study and how it may help give a St. Thomas teen and her family some answers.
I just felt really terrible. I just wanted it to stop, and you know, when you're dead, you can't feel anything.
It's a thought that has run through 18-year-old Kristen Legault-Donker's mind so many times that the thought turned into action.
I was so low and I didn't feel like things were going to get better, so I tried to end my life.
Kristen started struggling with depression and suicidal thoughts at the age of 14, 5 years after her mother lost her own battle with mental illness.
Well, in the beginning, I just started to withdraw from friends and stay in my bedroom and that kind of stuff. But later it got really, really bad.
It's been so bad that Kristen has attempted to take her life more times than she or her grandparents can count. Over the years, her family has been doing whatever they can to keep her safe.
And then we put some kind of alarm downstairs that we could hear upstairs, which Kristen didn't know about. So if she would get out of bed and walk around, we would wake up.
However, sometimes that wasn't even enough.
We were visiting some friends and she called and says, how long are you going to be away? You know, because we're visiting some friends. And then I said, well, I don't know how long we're going to be away, maybe 2 hours, who knows? I said to my husband, get in the car right now. We need to go home, because she's asking how long we'll be away. And she was in the process of hanging herself.
That day, Kristen was rushed to Emerge, a place she's been a number of times because of suicide attempts. But she's not alone. A recent study conducted here at LHSC by a pediatric physician revealed
we did see an increase in emergency department visits for suicidal behavior. So this includes suicidal ideation, self-poisoning, and self-harm since 2010, and that seems to be still on the rise.
Dr. Punai's study examined youth between the ages of 5 to 17 and included data from emergency rooms from every hospital across the province. It also examined the role, if any, social media played when it came to the increase in suicide attempts in the age category of 11 to 17.
This study really points us in the direction that social media, social networking is not the fault.
So why the increase?
We really don't know, and we've asked a lot of experts why we think that is. There's multiple theories put forth. Some people think it's a withdrawal of important services, health services for mental health.
Dr. Punai says the next step for his research team is to do a larger national study to try to figure out the cause. In the meantime, Kristen and her family continue to work on healing and hope studies like Dr. Punai's will increase awareness around the issue.
The public needs to be more aware of how to treat people with mental illness. They need to be more compassionate and understanding instead of pushing them aside.
The problem is, if you're not taken seriously, that person's going to die eventually.
In St. Thomas, Celine Moreau, CTV News.